Good evening. We're continuing with Stumbling in the Half-Light. This is chapter 2, The People of the Longhouse. Anthropologists and archaeologists aren't exactly sure when the Haudenosaunee formed the League of Peace, but about 1360 CE is the most likely date. Most people today know the Haudenosaunee as the Iroquois, the Black Snake people, which is the derogatory name given to them by the Huron, who, historically, have been their principal rivals. Back in the days before the League of Peace, the Haudenosaunee were the Mohawk, Onondaga, Oneida, Cayuga, and Seneca tribes, living in what is now upstate New York. In those days, they spent most of their time in internecine warfare. However, with the development of the League, these conflicts soon ceased. This organizational framework, together with the perfecting of an agricultural methodology known as the Three Sisters, corn, squash, and beans, quickly made this league one of the most powerful and prosperous in the eastern woodlands. The development of the League enabled the Haudenosaunee to expand their territory, which pushed to the Caspe Peninsula and New Brunswick in the east, Virginia and Kentucky in the south, Illinois in the west, and most of the Niagara Peninsula in the north. This put pressure on the surrounding tribes to develop confederacies of their own and began a period of rapid nation building throughout Northeast and Central North America. The boundaries between these various tribal groups was constantly changing, and with the arrival of the European colonists with their own conflicting interests, it was like adding 3 or 4 more tribes to the mix. The French linked up with the Huron and developed a lucrative fur trade. The Haudenosaunee wanted to be in on this trade too, and tried to set up their own treaty with the French. But the French double-crossed them. They captured the 50 chiefs sent to negotiate with them and shipped them back to France as slaves. This was not a good idea, however, as instantly the full wrath of the Haudenosaunee fell on them, shutting down the fur trade and almost driving the French out of the New World. In the end, the French returned the 13 surviving chiefs and agreed to enter into a treaty. Even so, the Haudenosaunee remained deeply suspicious of the French, and it wasn't long before they sided with the British against the French interests in North America. With the American Revolution, the Haudenosaunee continued to support the British Crown, this time against the American colonists. George Washington was furious and demanded that his generals not just defeat the Haudenosaunee, but utterly wipe them out. Not all the founding fathers were so harsh, however. In fact, Thomas Jefferson, and particularly Benjamin Franklin, were fascinated by the organizational structure of the League and incorporated many of the features into the United States Constitution. After the British lost the war, most of the Haudenosaunee fled to Canada, where King George III granted them large tracts of land to resettle. One of the largest of these was the Haldimand Deed. It was to extend 10 kilometers either side of the Grand River from its head to its mouth, a length of about 280 kilometers. Or 5,600 kilometers square. Today, this grant is known as Six Nations Indian Reserve Number 40 and has shrunk to 10 kilometers by 16 kilometers, or 160 square kilometers, on one side of the Grand River near Brantford, Ontario. This dramatic reduction has been the result of a labyrinthine mix of land deals, many of which are still in dispute to this day. It is from this reserve that my mother's family comes and where I spent my early childhood.